There exists a truth that Helena Blavatsky revealed only to her closest disciples before dying, and today you will discover why she considered this information too dangerous to be disclosed publicly. She discovered that not all souls pass through the same number of incarnations, and that there exists a specific group of ancient souls who are living their last earthly experience without knowing it. If you're one of these souls, your current life is not just another incarnation. It's the final exam of a journey that has lasted thousands of years. What makes this revelation even more impressive is that these souls develop 9 unmistakable signs during their last cycle. Signs that don't appear by chance, but follow a precise pattern that Blavatsky studied for decades through Akashic records and secret Tibetan texts. Each sign is like a key that unlocks layers of consciousness, preparing the soul for something that most people can't even imagine is possible: complete liberation from the cycle of reincarnations. The reason Blavatsky kept this secret was not out of selfishness, but because she knew this information could cause 2 devastating effects. First, souls who aren't ready might try to artificially force these signs, causing severe psychic imbalances. Second, souls who truly are in their last cycle might resist the signs out of fear of transformation, delaying their evolution for centuries. But times have changed, and now the moment has come for this wisdom to be revealed to those who are truly prepared. The most extraordinary thing is that these 9 signs don't follow a linear order. They can appear in any sequence, but when you recognize most of them in your own life, it means your soul is sending a clear signal. Your earthly journey is coming to a glorious end. It's not about physical death, it's about spiritual transcendence. It's about graduating from the cosmic university and departing for dimensions of existence that human words cannot describe. During the next few minutes, I will reveal each of these signs with the precision that only someone who has studied Blavatsky's original manuscripts could offer. And if you recognize yourself in most of them, your life will never be the same again, because you will finally understand who you really are and why you have always felt different from all the other people around you. The first evidence that you might be in your final cycle is something that happens completely naturally. You simply stop caring about the things that make most people run after them: the new car, the bigger house, brand-name clothes, the job title. All of this loses its shine, as if someone had turned down the volume of material seduction around you. This doesn't happen because you decided to be a minimalist or read some book about detachment. It's something that springs from within outward, a natural saturation with the empty promises of the physical world. You have already experienced all of this in previous lives. You've already had wealth, you've already had poverty, you've already sought recognition, you've already lived in anonymity. Your experienced soul knows that none of this brings true happiness. People around you might not understand this change. They will question why you no longer want to participate in the race for material success. Where is your ambition, they ask. But you feel a profound freedom in no longer needing to prove anything to anyone. It's as if you had stepped out of a game that everyone is still playing, but which you've already discovered isn't worth it. This liberation from material anchors creates space for something much more precious: the search for inner truth. You begin to value simple moments. A deep conversation is worth more than an expensive dinner. A sunset observed in silence brings more satisfaction than any purchase. You discover that true wealth was always available, but your hands were too busy holding unnecessary things. Your ancestral soul remembers all the cycles in which you accumulated treasures that turned to dust, conquered empires that disappeared, built identities that dissolved with death. Now you know that all of this is temporary, and this wisdom brings a deep peace. You're not running away from responsibility. You're choosing to invest your energy in what truly matters. Comment which city you're watching from, so we can know how far this ancestral knowledge is reaching and helping awakened souls like you recognize their true nature. But this first evidence is just the tip of the iceberg. There's something even deeper that happens when you free your soul from material chains. And this leads us to the second revelation that will completely surprise you. The second revelation manifests as a deep and constant thirst for solitude, but not the sad solitude of abandonment. It's sacred solitude, the kind that nourishes and regenerates your essence. You discover that you need moments alone, like you need air to breathe. Social gatherings, however pleasant they may be, begin to drain your energy in a way you've never experienced before. This happens because your evolved soul functions like a hypersensitive antenna. It picks up all the emotional frequencies around you, all the unresolved dramas, all the masks people wear. In crowds, you feel like someone trying to listen to soft music while several other songs are playing loudly at the same time. The energetic noise becomes unbearable. In solitude, something magical happens. You don't feel alone, you feel complete. It's as if you could finally hear your own inner voice without interference. Your soul can expand, breathe, remember who you really are beyond all the roles you need to play in society. You begin to have deep conversations with yourself, and these conversations are richer than most external dialogues. People might interpret this as antisocial or depression, but you know it's exactly the opposite. You are connecting with the source of all true sociability. When you return to the world after your moments of retreat, you are more present, more compassionate, more authentic. It's like you go to recharge at the source of life to be able to give your best to others. This need for inner silence also reveals something deep about your spiritual mission. Souls in their final cycle often prepare to become guides, mentors, or energetic healers. And this preparation happens in moments of quietude, where you can access more subtle dimensions of existence and receive higher guidance. Your wise soul understands that the world's noise is designed to keep people distracted from their true nature. You're not running away from life, you're diving deeper into it, and this inner dive reveals treasures that no external experience could offer. But there's a third manifestation, even more impressive, that happens when you embrace this sacred solitude, and it will show how special your spiritual journey really is. The third manifestation is one of the most impressive and might even frighten you at first. Your sensitivity expands in such a way that you begin to perceive layers of reality that were previously invisible. You feel people's energy before they even speak. You can pick up the emotional climate of an environment just by entering it. It's as if you had developed extra senses that most people don't possess. This hypersensitivity is not fragility, it's a spiritual superpower. Your experienced soul has developed the ability to navigate the more subtle dimensions of existence. You can feel when someone is lying, not because you're suspicious, but because their energy speaks a different language than their words. You can identify places charged with heavy energy or light, people who nourish or drain. Sometimes this can be challenging. You enter a crowded shopping mall and feel overwhelmed by the mixture of emotions, desires, and anxieties of hundreds of people. You watch the news and physically feel the world's pain. You witness an argument and absorb the anger of those involved like an emotional sponge. But gradually, you learn to protect yourself and use this gift consciously. This expanded sensitivity also brings extraordinary gifts. You can offer comfort exactly when someone needs it, even without the person asking for help. Your presence becomes healing. People feel better just being around you, even without understanding why. Animals and children are naturally attracted to you because they perceive your pure energy. Helena Blavatsky described this phenomenon as the awakening of astral senses. Souls in their final cycle begin to operate simultaneously on the physical plane and on higher planes. It's as if you are learning the universal language of energy, preparing to exist in dimensions where communication happens through pure consciousness. Your ancestral soul remembers other incarnations where you developed psychic abilities, where you were a healer, shaman, mystic, or oracle. Now these capacities are naturally returning, like a spiritual inheritance you carry. You're not going crazy or becoming problematic. You're awakening to your true multidimensional nature. But there's a fourth characteristic even more powerful that emerges from this expanded sensitivity, and it will show how you're being prepared for something much greater than you imagine. The fourth characteristic that emerges is one of the most beautiful and powerful, a deep calm that doesn't depend on external circumstances. While the world around you might be in total turbulence, you remain like a serene mountain, unshakable before life's storms. This is not a forced or fake calm. It's genuine peace that springs from the depths of your experienced soul. You notice that things that used to make you anxious, irritated, or desperate simply can no longer shake your center. An unexpected dismissal, a relationship that ends, an illness in the family. All of this still affects you, but in a completely different way. You feel, you care, but you don't fall apart. It's as if your soul had developed a wisdom that sees beyond temporary appearances. This serenity is born from deep knowledge that everything in life is transitory. Your soul has already passed through so many cycles of birth and death, joy and sadness, conquest and loss, that it has finally understood the impermanent nature of all experiences. You're not becoming insensitive, you're becoming wise. Each challenge is seen as another opportunity for growth, another lesson in the school of life. People begin to notice something different about you. They seek you out when they're in crisis, because your presence calms. You don't need to give elaborate advice. Your own balanced energy functions as a balm for disturbed souls. You become a safe harbor amid others' emotional storms, a beacon of stability in an increasingly chaotic world. This inner peace also reveals your preparation to completely transcend human dramas. Souls in their final cycle develop this equanimity because they're gradually disidentifying with the ego and its dramatic needs. You continue participating in life, but without getting lost in it. It's as if you were an experienced actor who knows they're in a play, but no longer confuses the character with their true identity. Your ancestral soul remembers all the times you let yourself be carried away by turbulent emotions, all the lives in which you were consumed by drama and struggle. Now you've developed the wisdom to remain centered, to be compassionate without becoming dramatic, to help without unnecessarily sacrificing yourself. But there's a fifth evidence even deeper that emerges from this serenity, and it will reveal why you've always felt somewhat out of place in this world. The fifth evidence is perhaps the most revealing of all. You feel like an observer of human life, more than a completely engaged participant. It's as if you were watching a fascinating movie, but always conscious that it's a movie. You participate, you get involved, but there's a part of you that remains detached, observing everything with an almost scientific curiosity. Since childhood, you probably felt different from your peers. While they got completely enthusiastic about games, competitions, or social dramas, you felt a strange distance from these things. Not because you were superior or disinterested, but because your experienced soul had already lived through all of this countless times. It's like watching a movie you've already seen many times. It can still be interesting, but it no longer surprises you. This observer perspective intensifies in adulthood. You watch people desperately fighting for things you know are temporary. You see entire families destroying themselves over inheritances that will soon turn to dust. You witness wars over territories that nature will one day reclaim. It's not cynicism. It's a deep understanding of existence's eternal cycles. Sometimes this can generate a sensation of existential loneliness. You love people, but feel as if you speak a slightly different language. Your concerns are different, your priorities are different, your vision of time is completely different. While others worry about what will happen next week, you think in terms of eternal purposes and consciousness evolution. This expanded perspective also brings extraordinary gifts. You can offer wise counsel because you see problems from a higher perspective. You understand that most crises are disguised growth opportunities. Your ability to remain calm in difficult situations comes from this panoramic vision of life. Helena Blavatsky called this sacred detachment. It's not coldness or indifference, but a superior form of love that doesn't cling to temporary forms. You love people and life deeply, but don't desperately attach to how things should be. You accept the natural flow of existence with a grace that few can understand. Your observing soul is preparing to completely transcend identification with human personality. You still have a personality, still live your life, but you know this is just a temporary costume that your eternal consciousness is wearing in this specific incarnation. And there's a sixth transformation that happens when you embrace this observer perspective, something that will show how you're freeing yourself from the very chains of personal identity. The sixth transformation is one of the most liberating and might cause strangeness in people around you. You simply stop feeling the need to prove who you are. The constant impulse to defend yourself, to show your worth, to compete for recognition begins to disappear like morning mist. It's not that you've lost self-esteem. On the contrary, you've found such deep self-esteem that you no longer need external validation. This change confuses people because our society is built on the ego's constant performance. Everyone is always trying to prove something, that they're intelligent, successful, attractive, important. But you've quietly withdrawn from this race. Not because you gave up on life, but because your experienced soul understands that your true identity is beyond any role you might play. You stop getting irritated when someone criticizes you unfairly. You stop inflating when someone praises you excessively. Both criticism and praise pass through you like wind, without sticking to your identity. This happens because you know, on a deep level, that you are neither your successes nor your failures. You are the consciousness that observes all of this happening. This dissolution of the performative ego liberates tremendous energy. All that energy you spent defending yourself, promoting yourself, comparing yourself to others, is now available for much more important things. You become more creative, more compassionate, more present. It's as if you had stopped carrying a heavy backpack you didn't even know you were carrying. People might interpret this change as lack of ambition or laziness, but it's exactly the opposite. You become more effective because you're no longer fighting against yourself. Your actions flow from a place of authenticity, not from a need for approval. You do things because they're right, not because they'll impress someone. This transformation also reveals something deep about your evolutionary stage. Souls in their final cycle have already experienced all possible types of identity. They've already been kings and beggars, saints and sinners, famous and anonymous. Your soul has tired of playing roles and now simply seeks to be authentic. You're preparing to exist as pure consciousness, beyond any limited identity. The most beautiful thing about this transformation is that you become a silent example for others. Without preaching or teaching, your very presence shows that it's possible to live without the tyranny of the ego. You become a space of peace where others can rest from their own constant performances. But there's a seventh quality, even more mysterious, that emerges from this freedom from ego, and it will reveal how you're being guided by a wisdom that transcends the ordinary mind. The seventh quality that manifests is perhaps the most mysterious of all, an absolutely reliable inner guidance that is independent of external maps. It's as if you had developed an internal spiritual compass that always points to your true north, even when you can't rationally explain why you should follow a certain path. You begin to make decisions that don't make sense to other people, but that prove to be perfectly aligned with your higher purpose. Sometimes you feel an inexplicable impulse to change cities, jobs, relationships, and even without having all the answers, you trust this inner guidance. And almost always these illogical decisions take you exactly where you needed to be. This inner compass works through subtle signs that your experienced soul has learned to recognize, a sensation of expansion in your chest when you're on the right path, a subtle contraction when something isn't aligned, dreams that offer guidance, synchronicities that confirm your decisions. You develop an intimate language with the universe, a communication that happens beyond words. People around you might question your choices. Why are you leaving this secure job? Why are you moving to a city where you don't know anyone? But you know something they don't know. You're being guided by a superior intelligence, a wisdom that sees connections and possibilities that the linear mind cannot comprehend. This inner guidance also reveals your growing connection with the spiritual plane. Souls in their final cycle begin to receive more direct guidance from their spiritual guides, from their higher soul, from what Helena Blavatsky called masters of wisdom. You're not hearing voices or having dramatic visions. You're simply tuned into a higher frequency of guidance. Share in the comments if you've already experienced this sensation of being guided by something greater than yourself and how this has transformed your life decisions. Your experienced soul remembers other incarnations where you ignored this inner guidance and suffered the consequences. Now you've learned to trust this internal wisdom more than any external advice. You understand that your soul has a specific mission in this life and that this inner compass is guiding you to fulfill exactly this mission. The most impressive thing is that the more you trust this guidance, the clearer it becomes. It's like exercising a spiritual muscle. And this leads us to the eighth revelation, which will show how you're developing capacities that completely transcend the physical world. The eighth revelation is the manifestation of an intuition so sharp it borders on the paranormal. You simply know things without having learned them. You have insights about complex situations without having all the information. You can feel when something important is going to happen in the lives of people close to you. It's as if you had direct access to a universal library of knowledge and wisdom. This capacity manifests in subtle ways at first. You have a feeling about a person and later discover that your intuition was right. You dream about situations that later happen in real life. You think about someone and that person calls you minutes later. Gradually you realize that these aren't coincidences, but manifestations of a natural psychic capacity that is awakening. Your experienced soul carries memories from previous lives where you developed these abilities. Perhaps you were an oracle in ancient Greece, a shaman in an indigenous tribe, a mystic in a medieval monastery. Now these capacities are naturally returning, like talents you never really lost, just temporarily forgot. You also develop an intuitive understanding of people that goes far beyond appearances. You can see through social masks and perceive each person's true essence. This makes you a natural counselor, because you understand not only what people say, but what their hearts really need to hear. This connection with universal wisdom also manifests through an insatiable thirst for spiritual knowledge. You feel attracted to ancient texts, mystical teachings, philosophies that explore the mysteries of existence. It's not common intellectual curiosity. It's your soul recognizing truths that it already knows on deep levels. Helena Blavatsky described this phenomenon as the awakening of spiritual vision. Souls in advanced stages begin to operate simultaneously in the physical world and in the more subtle dimensions of reality. You're preparing to exist as pure consciousness, and this preparation includes developing perceptions that transcend the 5 physical senses. The most impressive thing is that this intuitive wisdom always guides you toward good. You never use these capacities to manipulate or harm others. Your evolved soul understands that all beings are connected, and that helping others is, in fact, helping yourself on a cosmic level. But there's a 9th and final characteristic that represents the apex of all these transformations, and it will reveal why you're being prepared for something much greater than this earthly life. The 9th and final characteristic is the most beautiful and definitive of all, the blossoming of unlimited compassion that embraces all forms of life, combined with a serene acceptance that this may be your last earthly incarnation. It's not a sentimental or romantic love, but a deep compassion that recognizes the divinity in every being, from the smallest ant to the most complex human being. This universal compassion arises naturally when you understand on cellular levels that all separation is illusory. You see beyond personality masks and recognize the same divine essence that exists in you pulsing in every person's heart. Even those who cause pain or act with cruelty are seen as lost souls temporarily disconnected from their true nature. Along with this compassion comes something even deeper, a tranquil acceptance that your earthly journey is coming to an end. It's not a morbid or sad acceptance of physical death, but a jubilant understanding that you have completed the earthly school's curriculum. Your soul has learned all the lessons it came to seek through centuries of incarnations. You may notice that you no longer fear death. In fact, there's a gentle curiosity about what comes next, like someone who is graduating and yearns to explore new horizons. You understand that death is just the removal of a heavy coat you've been wearing for a long time. Your true identity is eternal and indestructible. This readiness for liberation also manifests in a natural need to put your life in order. You want to resolve pending conflicts, express unspoken love, complete important projects, not out of anxiety, but from a sense of elegant completion. It's like an artist giving the final touches to their masterpiece before signing it. Helena Blavatsky taught that souls in their final cycle often feel called to serve as bridges between worlds. You might feel drawn to healing work, spiritual teaching, or simply radiating a presence that comforts and inspires others. Your very existence becomes a gift to the world. If you recognize yourself in most of these 9 characteristics, know that you are a truly special soul. You're not going through an existential crisis or spiritual depression. You're experiencing the final awakening of a consciousness that has walked through countless learning cycles and is now ready for the great transcendence. Comment below which of these characteristics you recognize in yourself. Leave your like so this knowledge can reach other awakened souls who need to understand their own journey. Subscribe to the channel to continue receiving revelations that can illuminate your spiritual path. Remember, you are not just a human being having a spiritual experience. You are an ancient and wise spiritual being, completing an extraordinary journey through the worlds of form. Honor your greatness, embrace your mission, and prepare for the eternal freedom that your soul has been seeking through the ages. You came this far because your soul recognized these truths. Now it's time to fully live this wisdom and help other awakened souls recognize their own journey toward the great liberation.